Don Richard of the platinum-selling group Danity Kane, as well as Diddy's Dirty Money, is a survivor. Repping Louisiana, many of us came to know Dawn on MTV's hit reality series Making the Band, where she, along with group mates D. Woods, Aubrey O'Day, Shannon Bex, and Andrea Fembres, would go on to top the charts with hits like Showstopper and Damaged before the group was ultimately disbanded by Diddy himself on the finale episode of Making the Band. Dawn would later continue working with Diddy as the trio Dirty Money, where together they developed a sound that was genuinely ahead of its time. After that group disbanded, Dawn set off on a solo career that would ultimately offer her the freedom and flexibility to fully allow her artistry to shine. But it wasn't all roses. Facing challenges, swirling rumors, and public backlash, Dawn was able to hit her own winning streak. And this is her story. Skye Squad, we are back in the building, and look who we have here that then helped into the room. Okay, we got the Don Richard. How are you?
I'm good. I'm blessed. I just came from working out, feeling good. I do my daily workout, so.
Ow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because you always stay in shape because you always up to something. We got to talk about what you up to right now.
Yeah, I do 5 miles a day always.
Let's say what?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, early. Yep. Right before I get to work. Mm-hmm.
Yo, you making me feel like I'm lazy.
No, it's just a habit. I've been doing it for so long. Y'all saw us running in Central Park years ago.
Yes.
And that was 7 miles before he made us dance in that Alvin Ailey studio. And since then, I don't know, my body is just, I've been, I'm from a different era. So it's like the craft is still real. It's still new. It's still like real for me, the hustle and the ethic, the work ethic. So
the discipline, man, the discipline.
I still do it.
Do you think that do you think that that's missing today, like in the music industry? I mean, I know it's hard to really say what other people are doing.
Yeah, I feel like everything is its time. Like I ain't gonna knock what the hustle is now. Kudos to all the artists that have figured out not to run 5 miles. Like that's shout out to y'all. Everybody's different. That's just what I know, and that's what I appreciate. I'm never gonna knock somebody for their rise.
Yeah.
But I do know that I would not have the career I've had or stayed this long had I not had this work ethic. So that's just for me. I feel like that's given me my longevity.
Because we've been knowing you since 2005 or so, but you was out working before that.
Long before then. Yeah, I mean, I was on dancing in the NBA. We did 5 miles then too. For the New Orleans Hornets at the time. It was Charlotte, and then they moved to New Orleans after Katrina. And so we were the New Orleans Hornets. So I danced on the dance team there. I'm a musical artist myself, already doing stuff in New Orleans. My mom owned a dancing school. I was like going to the Olympics for softball. So I was already into a team, like discipline type of like severe workout situation long before. But I think it amplified when I did Making the Band. And I just took all the work ethic that I had prior and put it into what I knew going into the show. And it has stayed with me all the way through. Because dance is a sport.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Have you ever thought about teaching?
Yeah. My parents are educators in their own right. My mom taught dance. I taught dance when I got my certificate. I started dance when I was 2. So I graduated quite early. So I was a teacher young. And then I was the co-captain of the NBA dance team. So I was already teaching.
Yeah.
But now I've just done NYU. I did a really cool masterclass at NYU and talked about my trajectory as an entrepreneur, as an indie artist, because I kind of was among the earlier indie artists.
Yeah.
Before independent was hot. I was kind of facilitating what it means to be an independent artist in a time where independence wasn't hot.
Yeah.
And I created it and utilized it as a business. And it was sustainable. So like, just like any small business, NYU wanted to learn about the concept of how we facilitated that. So yeah, I really enjoy teaching that as a masterclass, and I would continue to do that.
Yeah, because for some reason I can see you teaching. Speaking of your journey as an independent artist, when I think about independent like musicians, entertainers, like you are the person that I think about because we have seen you do it and you make it look. I was just saying this before you got on. I was saying you make it look so easy.
I mean, thank you. I'm glad it does look easy. It's not. It is not. Nothing is. Nothing worth having, and nothing, like to stay long in this thing is easy. Um, but I'm glad it can look that way. That's the point, right? Is to hope that it does. But it requires a lot of work. It was a lot of rejection, and still being rejected. Anything that is ahead of its time is going to be looked at as not something anyone wants to invest in. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to believe in yourself at a level when no one else and everyone is telling you that it's trash. And so it is not easy, but I'm glad that it did appear and does appear that way. When truthfully, I'm up at 6 a.m. and I'm probably the first one up and the last one to go to sleep.
I heard that. I heard that before you jumped on here. I have so much to ask you about, but I want to establish this before anybody else, like before they hear anything else. You have a new single out called Bubblegum.
Bubblegum. Yeah. Super fun. I had just
It
finished
is.
a Philharmonic project with Spencer Zahn called Pigments. And coming from second line, I think people were a bit jarred. Like they were like, wait, now we're in a symphony. What's happening? But again, I'm never predictable with my art. I want free reign to do whatever I want to do as a musician. I don't want anyone to tell me what I'm supposed to be doing, or I'm not here to capitalize off of anybody's momentum. I don't have payola. I am not the biggest person on TikTok. I'm not that person, but that also gives me an opportunity to really do whatever the hell feels good to me. And I'm lucky enough to have a group of people who listen and say, okay, I'm gonna rock with this. And I really wanted to do a Philharmonic project. I really wanted to work in composition, music. I wanted to work with composers. And this was something that I wanted to do special for New Orleans. And so we did it. But I didn't want people to think that I would sit there very long because I was still in my second line bag, my King Creole bag. And so Bubblegum is just basically like, we back for the 8 count. And so I wanted something really fun. So this is just literally an amuse bouche, a very much appetizer, just something to say, hey, y'all, I'm back.
Okay, because I was like, now in my assessment from your previous outings with your music, this is usually indicative that there is more to come.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so is there another album on the way?
Oh, absolutely.
Great. Can
Yeah.
you tell us when?
I mean, nah, not really. But here's the reason why, because
Okay.
if you know me, you know I'm always prefacing something.
Mm,
So it takes time. Like Armor On was a preface to Golden Heart. Infrared was a
mm.
preface to like, I'm very consistent. So like I'm just giving you guys preparation. I want you to get comfortable with sounds. So like for example, to me, Bubblegum is way more commercial, leaning toward the more commercial sounds like Blow, Bust It For Me, like those records tends to be more commercial. And I really feel like if Bubblegum was done by like Danity Kane or anything like that, it would be quite big, even bigger than what it is, because it is among the more playful side, like the Lemonades that we like,
Hmm.
the Lemonade record, which is fun. But it's bigger than that. For those who really know me, I'm telling you to pay attention to the drum patterns, the tempo.
Mm.
I'm telling you where I'm about to go. So I've got a few more things to direct y'all to before I give you an album.
Okay, I'm with that. I'm with that because to me that could go like I was going down all the albums and I was like, okay, so if I'm doing like a set list, I'm doing Bombs first, going
You
into
will.
Automatic, Northern Lights, and
Mhm.
then we can put Bubblegum right up in there.
Really good, doesn't it? Mhm.
It does. And you know
Mhm.
what else I was thinking? This is just me talking like as a fan. I was like, Shades
Mhm.
and Cuff It. I'm just thinking about Dawn and
Mhm.
Beyonce because
And her album is fantastic. Yeah.
and
Mhm.
you've been doing this celebration of Black music, especially when it relates to dance, electronic for such a long time that I was like, the compliment there is just perfect.
And what a great that time, right? I'm really happy that we're now getting there.
Yeah.
Like it took us a while, but it always takes sometimes the bigger artists, the massive artists to follow the trend or to take the trend. And a lot of times the indie culture is the the catalyst.
Mm-hmm.
We could either be bitter about it or we could acknowledge that, yay, at least it's here. And so kudos to Beyonce for knowing and seeing a post that has been already there. That's true. There are a lot of that has already been there, but sometimes it takes somebody massive to highlight it to then get our culture to be like, okay, let's pay attention to something that has been something of ours for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I love that you always rep for New Orleans.
I always, that's my home. That's where it started. And though, again, my city is still new to the concept of us pushing this world. I'm very proud of where I come from and that I can exemplify something that is, you know, not the traditional way in which you see New Orleans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go back now because I had to make sure we let people know right off the bat that you got music out there for those of you who are living under a rock who will see this later. Okay. And that now we know that there's more to come because this is the appetizer.
Yeah.
And we see some concert dates out there as well. So they can head on out there and get some tickets.
Yeah.
But can we go back?
We can go as far as we want to go.
Let's go back to the beginning.
All right.
I want to know, take me back to walking into this making the band experience because so many people to this day still talk about y'all's version of making the band.
Yeah. I mean, I think if we still got back together, we would still be just as big. And it's so unfortunate that it's really unfortunate that we can't get back together. It's really sad, but it would be great if we could touch that moment. But yeah, I think ours was powerful because at the time we needed girl groups. We had had something big since Destiny's Child. We hadn't had something multiracial since Spice Girls. And I think this made it massive, right? And I also think the icing on the cake was that Puff knew nobody had seen the inside of the curtain, right? No one had seen the great, powerful, like they hadn't seen all the nuts and bolts. All they were seeing was the chapel, the final building of the building. They weren't seeing all the bad shit that happens in the in-between. And Puff exposed it. Whether he curated a lot of it himself to it is another story. But he did show the reality of it. And I think people needed to see it. And it just so happened that we had all those components to create something that was very special.
Interestingly, do you think that anything that may have been curated, do you think it made it better or worse?
I think if it came out in this time, it would be horrible and we would have been canceled a long time ago because it was severely disrespectful and misogynist to women. But that's also like, I was seeing someone talk about America's Top Model and some of the stuff that was on there probably would have been horrid for weight and the way in which the girls were talked to. So I think if it came out in this time, it would probably not be received well on Puff's end, from the things he made us do, from the things he told us, how he talked to us. But I think in that time, it worked. It worked. Was it toxic? Absolutely. Did it also create thick skin for us to all be able to survive in this? Yeah. I mean, take it how you want to take it. It was shitty and it was awesome at the same time. Like I wish no woman to experience the things we did. I also know we got an opportunity that some of us would never have gotten in other opportunities. But yeah, we were built in a situation that was manufactured and probably built for us to fail from the very beginning because it was never about us. It was always about the machine. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think you take it as you want to. It was horrible for us, but it was also, number one records. And we got to see great, incredible people and meet incredible fans. So, double-edged sword.
Double-edged sword indeed. Do you, I guess you don't have any regrets about that, right?
I can't regret something that also gave me one of the most incredible lives I've seen the world. I've traveled from the lower ninth ward. I mean, I coming from New Orleans, you can only dream of a life like that. So I will never I will never be ungrateful for the opportunity, but I'm not going to sit here and act like it wasn't gnarly. It was gnarly.
Yeah.
It was gnarly. We were told we were fat. We were told we were ugly, but also fans on social media tell you you're ugly and fat daily. So we were also groomed to be prepared the shit show of the industry. So you could look at it like it was, one thing, but we were also built and for it because we were put in the worst situations known to man. We were also built to be able to perform on site, sing on site. There were no backing tracks, no no things like singing on lip singing, and no, we had to do the full 8 count while singing in full vocal, and we had to do it on a drop of a dime. So those things were really great, right? We were built to be something really stable, but we were also built on unstable ground. So we were being curated to be these, media training. We were getting all those things. We were also being told we weren't worth shit, or our weight was crappy, or we, like pitted against each other, and told like all these horrible, that was added to it. But to me, that's the industry as well.
Yeah.
And artists are dealing with that, but not from Puff there, or Polo Ladon or Jimmy Iovine or those people. They're being told by a 14-year-old kid on social media who doesn't have a face.
Wow.
So, such is life. So do I regret it? I would have gotten in that line.
That's powerful.
I would have gotten in that line.
When you guys got back together, did you have the full realization of what you have now? Because I feel like you're able to talk about it in a very self-actualized way. You know what I'm saying?
Therapy for all of us. For all of us.
Really?
Yeah. When cameras are on you 24/7, you've never come from that. You literally come from like I had come from the lower ninth ward of New Orleans, and then the next day life changed and there were cameras on us. No one told us we had to look pretty all the time. We were literally fighting for our jobs, and people were watching us do it, right? So when you have cameras on you, you don't sleep because you're literally you're told to work out and do all this stuff all day. And then when you finally are tired, it's 2 a.m. and you're getting to sleep. We get a call and say, Puff needs you to be ready in 20 minutes. And you're sleeping with a mic pack on your back because literally at any moment, someone wants content from you while you're still trying to figure out, okay, I got to look good. I might get cut tonight. I got to sound good. You sit in a van to wait for him when he decides he wants to see you. So that could be 3 or 4 hours. You're sitting in a van, not knowing this is real life, and you're doing it consistently. That's trauma. Then you make the van and you think in your life is going to change, and then you have no budget. So you're sewing your clothes on for your tour. You're wearing Forever 21. The girls that are around you were just competing against, but now you're told you're supposed to be their sisters. You come from completely different walks of life. There are people in other people's ear telling that person that they're better than that person. Your manager isn't for you because he was given to you by the TV show. So you didn't even pick your manager. It was given to you. And that manager answers to the head person who 10 minutes ago was making you run as a joke for a television show. And that's now your label. Trauma. That's trauma. And then you walk away, you come from tour and your business manager is indicted and has stolen money. These are all things that are happening and no one's giving us the manual. We have nobody that's for us, and we have not seen our families in months, and that's what we're supposed to do. Yeah. So that's called trauma. So after a while, you have to get help to sleep, to not be traumatized, because that's going on for years. So hopefully you get out of it and you're able to speak about it honestly and realize you were 19 years old and that was your life. That's truth. While still having to sing and smile and do those things that, wasn't told to you. And that's the truth of it.
It's so amazing to me that it does sound like you were set up to fail. But the music and the pack you guys as singers, as artists, were amazing.
Thank you. We worked hard for it. Because beyond all of that, again, like I said, we were groomed.
Right.
And we all came from great things. Like we were all great artists in our own right separately. But we didn't know each other.
Yeah.
Two Black girls from Atlanta and New Orleans, which to me is one of the most hardcore Black cultural places during that time in 2000s, was not an easy thing. We came from something else. Dee was an artist in her own right with her sister, and they were doing their own. And then Aubrey comes from Palm Springs. Dre is coming from a Spanish, Latin, a Mexican family from Upland, California, and Shannon's from Republican Bend, Oregon. And we're all supposed to be this like sisterhood of greatness. And then our manager is Johnny Wright, one of the biggest managers for Janet Jackson for pop groups. We're signed to a rap label from a man who is notoriously known to shelve artists. We had to make that make sense. And I think we did a hell of a job, all of us. I mean, I think we made great music because it couldn't fail because of you guys. The fans were so, I think you guys are the reason we survived so long. No one thought we would be that big. And then they knew we had to win because everybody made money. The numbers didn't lie.
You said everybody made money. Did you guys feel like you made a lot of money?
No, we walked away poor. It's just the truth. And you can see it in our lives. You can see how we've all managed we have had to figure it out.
And
we don't own Making the Band. If Making the Band played again now, we don't own those rights to ourselves.
Was it a relief to you when it was, I remember watching the episode where, everything kind of fell apart. And I remember you kind of sitting in the room, I think with Andrea. Was there a sense of maybe relief from you, or were you just kind of like,
No, I wanted a job. I want to make money. This is truth. There's a lots of money to be made. There's a lot of opportunity out there. We are great by ourselves, but we are magnificent together. I don't get why we can't just figure it out and make some money and feed our families. But I also know that a lot of girls are going through trauma.
Yeah.
This traumatized a lot of people, and I want them to be able to heal the way they need to heal.
Do you still keep in contact with any of the girls?
No, I haven't talked in a long time to any of them. Aubrey was the last one I was able to still have conversation with, but she went and I think she left out of the country. I'm at country, or I don't know. After that, I haven't contacted her. I still had contact with Drea for a bit, and then she was, family things were going on, and I want to respect her family journey because she really is close. That means something to her, and
I got that sense.
Respect the hell out of that. So no, I haven't, but I really understand their process, and whatever they need to do to heal, I want that for them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about you going into Dirty Money real quick?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so you come from that situation with Making the Band, and so now you enter in another situation with Puff at the time, right? And I was reading some interviews about the reception that you got from the label. And I was like, I'm kind of cringing in my mind because I'm like, I can't believe they're saying
I think
things to you.
They didn't get it. I think it's honest. It was honest for them when you have a make, and it's just numbers. Gotcha. Like I didn't say that stuff to insult anybody. It's just, these are just truth, right? Like if something is working in a label and they know what that is, they're going to want that again. You could see that through trend, right? If you get an Ice Spice and she does what she does, now 19 labels are going to want an Ice Spice because it works, right? Nobody didn't want an Ice Spice until that happened. It's just the truth. Like everybody was saying there's no possible way Indy could be cool. And then SZA happened. Everybody said a record should be. Now SZA has one of the most, her run of her album is, I promise you, nobody was looking for that. That's why TDE had it. It wasn't a major, TDE had their own thing. They created it now. About probably every label wants a SZA now. That's a truth, right? But so at the time, what Puff was creating wasn't there. And it just didn't visually make sense to that label. Just didn't. Was it hardcore? It was crazy because we were in these environments where we were being looked at like we were silly. But I even though that sucked, what I cared about was I wished Puff would have fought for it more, because he was on to something.
He was.
Good vision. And I think he should have, I think he should have trusted it. That's all. More. I think he was on to something, and he started with it. He was brilliant with it. And then I think he let it go. And that to me is just unfortunate. You can't control what those that don't look like us want to see and perceive, right? But up to us when we have the keys to believe in it and stay steadfast in it, because it's special. I appreciate that he saw it.
Yeah.
I just wish he would have stuck with it. That's all.
Because the music, again, you're in another situation. The music is fire.
And now we're times two, right? Because I've already lost it once. And now I'm trusting it again, right? That's that Leo shit, that loyal stuff. And also too, I had Puff had bought me out of a contract prior to making the band. Okay. So I knew that I owed him, you know, and I respect that. It's money. I respect numbers. I owed him. And so I wanted to put in the work to pay back the opportunity he gave to me. And I wanted to make sure it was cut and dry, right? I didn't want to just be like, I paid you back. I wanted it to have interest. You feel me? I don't want nobody to ever look at me like I didn't do my job in something. Puff bought me out of something. So once Danity Kane was done, I had an obligation. I was still signing Bad Boy, and I didn't want to be shelved. So it wasn't like he was like, oh, I got you. I had 8 months of no job. Puff wasn't looking at me. 8 months. I was in the studio trying to make sure he did look at me. And then writing. And then Dirty Money was the product of that. And then I thought we were about to, I saw it. Me and Kalina saw it. We were like, we're going to the top. This is amazing. We're going to the top. And then we just didn't.
And so when you left that situation, how long did it take for you to say, you know what, I'm gonna do this myself?
It was, I actually went to Puff and was like, I would still stay with you as a solo artist. I would still rock with you. Because in my mind, I wanted to continue doing what we were doing with Dirty Money. And I was like, look, I had already wanted to do this type of sound. I had played him a few records that I was doing, and he was just like, yo, Interscope not gonna take that. Like at the time, Keisha Cole was popping and was on Jimmy's label, and they were having even turbulence. And he was like, they're gonna want you to do, and he wasn't wrong. He was like, they're gonna want you to do R&B. I just was like, that's not what I want to do. And I felt like the market was saturated. I felt like we already had a Brandy, we already had a Mary J, we already had a Keisha Cole. We already had a lot like Lauryn Hill. We already had K. Michelle. I just felt like that was nowhere near where I wanted to go. Mind you, I just come from a pop, dance, full 8-count girl group, and then went to an innovative 3 soul to soul, kind of like eclectic electro black. And now you're telling me I gotta go do standard. That's not even authentic to who I was and where I was going. And so I was like, well, Puff, I don't want to do that. And he was like, well, then I'll let you go. And I will always be grateful for that, because most people don't get to leave with their masters. They don't get to leave with their name. They don't get to leave. And I had paid my dues, and that was like almost 10 years of paying dues. And so I left.
When you left?
With nothing, but I left.
But your name.
No money, but I had my name. Yeah.
And so when you left, what did you do? Like, did you immediately get to work, or did you like take a break?
No breaks, babe. No breaks. I have not taken a break since 2005. No, because I was stuck in LA. I had no money, one of the most expensive places in the world. And I had this name, and I had no idea what to do. People had blamed me for the breakup of Danity Kane, and here we are now. I was promised a tour, and we were just broken up again, things that were not under my control. And I had no idea what to do. I was sleeping on a sofa at Drew. This dude, first I was in a hotel, and then I met this dude named Drew. And he wanted to work with me. And I was like, well, I'm going to just start making music on my own. And I'm going to do the music I want to do. Drew gave me his sofa, and I was sleeping on his sofa. That means I just came from 50,000 people performing in front of all of this stuff, and I was on somebody's sofa. And We built this record, Armor On. We built this project from scratch. Nobody really was, I mean, Drew was getting started. He was in his own little getting started moment, and I was on mine. And we just believed in each other, and we went at it 50-50. And we started creating a sound that I wanted to create, that he thought would be great. And at first it was real R&B. Drew had a vision of like, he really loved Brandy, and he was like, we could do this. And I did a record called Save Me From You. And I felt like the record was so too close to Brandy. I was like, yo, I know you love her. I know, she is amazing, but there is already a Brandy. I don't want to touch the person that does themselves the best.
Right.
We ain't going to touch someone who is Excelsius, like, and take their son. Like, we're not doing that. So Save Me From You was dope, but I didn't want to go that route. And so me and Drew I started telling him the influences I had, who I was rocking with. And he started playing with that. And then we built the sound from scratch together. And that became Armor On. And I started telling him what I was doing with Dirty Money. And I was like, look, I want to go. So there were records that I wrote that Puff didn't wind up keeping for Dirty Money, that I loved, that I wrote, that I had written from the tracks we were building. And we started like taking some of those records and saying, okay, Puff didn't do this, but I wrote this. How do we figure this out? And we created our sound based off of what I had always wanted to do, influences from Bjork and from things that I loved, from Portishead, from Purity Ring, like all these really incredible trip hop, and cinematic sounds, a lot of stuff from like old Odyssey lyric. Like, we were just going for it, and I wasn't unafraid, and I knew what afraid looked like, because I was just in the room when somebody not believing in me. So I was just like, we're gonna go. And then that became, it became a sound, and that was Armor On and Golden Heart.
Yeah, those two albums do have when I think back on it now, I can tell there's a distinct sound to those albums. And then I feel like Blackheart felt a bit more experimental.
Yeah, because I left Drew. After I was with Drew, and Drew still had that R&B, you know what I mean? Like, we still had an R&B lay of the land. I mean, before that was Telltale Heart, which was a completely different producer. That was Philip Bryant. That was just me. I didn't even know if I wanted to be a solo artist. I was on like this before I met Drew, and I was just in a hotel. I went back to Baltimore with my parents, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And my mom and dad were like just devastated for me. And I just was like, well, I'm going to do a mixtape to see if people even want to see me as a solo artist, because I didn't even know if people would want to see that. And then Telltale Heart sold 1 million. Well, not a sold, it was free, but 1 million downloads in like a day. And I was like, okay, well, maybe we should do it. And that's when I went to LA and met Drew and facilitated that sound. And again, I loved it, but I wanted to for real. So once I knew, and then Drew had got a deal based off of the work we had done, and Drew wanted to expand and do different things. And why am I to facilitate? Like, who am I to stop it? So we had kind of a falling out, because Drew had transcended, and he didn't really want to, at the time, he was looking to go do his next thing.
Right.
And I didn't want to stop that, but we clashed, and I didn't want to disrespect our relationship, because I felt like it was super sacred. So we just cut ties. We're good now. I love him dearly. And I think it's just one of those things, when the industry gets you, you got to let people grow.
Yeah.
But that was never my journey to, like, I'm going to still go. So at that moment, Golden Heart got me off my feet. It got both of us off our feet. So I was able to get my own spot, my own place. And I had to, like, again, on my terms, I had been homeless. So this was nothing. I was just back to starting from scratch. And so I did. And then Blackheart was, to me, the beginning of really like what I wanted to do. To me, one of my best projects. I met with a dude, Noise Castle, Scott, and that was when I started producing myself. And that was the beginning of like, that's when everybody started paying attention. And I would say Golden Heart and Armor On was kind of like people being like, well, don't even make it without Bad Boy or without everything. And then Blackheart happened, and those tastemakers in that indie world that wasn't paying attention as a, I was this Black girl, and they were kind of like, this Black girl is being hella ambitious. When I did Blackheart, I think everybody was like, wait, we should start paying attention because she's on to something. And that began like really, to me, Blackheart began my indie success.
Mm. You, from what I can tell, was it you that came up with the name Danity Kane?
Yeah.
And we were talking beforehand. You are really big into like art, like your own art, like creation and sketching and anime and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about your desire to do all of that on your own, like from creating your looks, your videos, the concepts, because so often I think in the industry we think about, other people curating, oh, let's style her this way. You know what I'm saying? Or bringing in someone to help that. But for you, it's really coming from your mind.
Well, number one, nobody would touch me after I left Bad Boy. I didn't have anybody, and those who I could touch, I couldn't afford. I mean, Marnie was styling us. Marnie is Marnie, from Dirty Money. I couldn't afford. Like when I left, I was say, "What's up, Marnie?" Marnie is Beyonce. You know what I'm saying? Like that budget is not that. So I had to get creative, but also I was okay with that. You know what I'm saying? Like I was okay with taking risks. To be honest, I have always been like, I'm gonna just do me, whether even when I was in DK, like I've always kind of just been to my own drum. And that's always either been a good thing or people hated on it. Either way, it was always authentic to who I was. But when you start to have everyone reject you, you get good at styling yourself. You get good at figuring things out. And since I was unafraid to take risk, I got really good at taking risk. And the more I got to dream and the more I got to build it and sew it and design it, the more I love doing it, And then I got lucky and I met some really great people like Nimai Marsden, who is an incredible makeup artist who, again, was coming up. I started meeting these artists who were just on their own come up. Oliver Brown, these really cool stylists, Joy Tao, who were willing to take the chance to work with me. And so I would work with people who were not popular. I stopped looking at trends and was looking at people who were just as passionate as I was. I wanted to respect their rates. They were low rates, but they were rates, so I would work really hard and pay them really well, respect them. And when I couldn't afford their worth, I wouldn't hire them. I just do it myself. That mattered. Developing relationships, and all those people that I named went on to be bigger and go past me. And I call them when I can, but when that can't work and I can't afford them, I don't use them. I try to respect the art and the artist. So I got really good at doing that. And so now I don't need a team. I just do it myself. Mm-hmm.
So then take me back to, you've done this on your own for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you want to call it an opportunity, but the idea comes back into fruition to go out another time with Danity Kane or to reconnect.
Every time they came, I said yes. Every time.
Really?
And yeah, before Blackheart, Blackheart was ready. Blow was ready. That wasn't like everybody when Blow came out. So when DK broke up the second time, Blow came out like that next day.
I remember.
It wasn't like no plan. Blow was done. I stopped my project, everything, because I was like, I'm going to try again. And it was always because I respected the fans. I felt so bad how we got broke up on national television. It was like a bad husband. Like it was like a cheating husband. It was like we just kept abusing you guys. And it just was like trash. I hated it. I didn't want to be a part of that. Like, Again, I am a true Leo when I say the loyalty thing is really big to me. I felt like no matter how much people may think we hate each other, there is a loyalty that I have to Danity Kane and Dirty Money that I always will have, because I made those choices. I'm fine with the choices I made there. So every time they came, I said yes. Unbeknown, much to the hard nose of the people around me. Everybody kept saying, don't do it. Don't do that. They're going to hurt you. They're going to hurt you. And every time I'd be like, nah. And every time they would. Every time they would. But it was never about the girls as much as it was about the fans. And the money was good. That's a buck. Like, to be truthful, I'm going to be 1,000. I get paid more to be standing next to a multiracial girl group than I do on my own.
Mm.
Mind you, I write the same songs that I sing, but if I stand next to multiracial girls, it for whatever reason, society loves it more.
Mm.
A venue will pay triple to see me standing next to multiracial girls than they would pay to see me by myself as a Black woman. And that's my own culture as well. So these are just facts. But beyond that, these are all truths. So I always say yes because the money's bigger. And also I love being with, like, I like sharing the stage with these girls. I do, because they're talented. But it always worked. The bad part is that there's so much trauma that never gets healed that we also bring that to the table as well. And so there's no trust really there. It never really works out in the end because of that that mistrust, and so it always ends negatively. We got to be big girls and put our big bras on, and we never really do. We always end up in childish shit.
Because all in the day's work, y'all always have bangers.
It was great, but it will also, the truth is we didn't get along. And we never humbled ourselves enough to say, okay, I'm hurting her, so let me fall back. Drea never did well in that, and she did not like it. And so anytime she felt like it wasn't authentic, she'd be the first to go. And that's fair.
It is.
Yeah. And then after that, it would always probably be a 2 against 1, because I never am good at latching on to people. I tend to do the lone thing, which is not a good thing, but it's easier for me to just kind of fall back. But then that means that 9 times out of 10, and then being Black now, because in that moment, Dee didn't come back. I was the only Black girl. And once Drea left, I was amongst 2 white women who are great, but when something bad happens, it's so easy to make me the angry Black woman. And that's what happened.
So then that situation ends, and you're like,
I'm back. I'm almost like I'm watching Groundhog's Day, because I'm like, okay, so it's the second time it's my fault. The second time it looks crazy. And so then I was like, all right, I'm gonna just put my stuff back out. So I did. And went right back on, like I always do, right back on that sofa, starting from scratch, and okay with it. And so I pull my bootstraps up and do it again.
Perseverance, man. Perseverance.
Including the personal life things that happen in my life. I didn't even, because I don't put that out there. So right. Yeah.
Well, that's why I was saying, I don't know if I said it to you, but I said there's a little Sade mystique to you, because
that's just,
in this day of social media, when I go through your social media, I see art.
That's it.
That's really, really it.
Person from day one. I am always that person. Yeah.
I imagine during the fallout after that, it may have been difficult then to talk about those experiences.
It was difficult the first time when we broke up the first time. I let everybody control that narrative. Puff controlled that. He didn't say nothing. He, like, when it happened on national television, Aubrey and all of them let that bad boy run, and everybody blamed me for it. And I never went and said nothing. I think I said one interview, and then I was just like, boom, all right. Same thing happened this time. The girls went on the Breakfast Club. And if it wasn't for Kyle, because I wasn't going to say anything, but everybody was like, you need to jump in front of this, because mind you, they did that interview and they did all of that TMZ stuff on my birthday. They came out on my birthday, and yeah, so like it was super malicious. And so at that time, and we've talked about this after, like I've been able to speak to Aubrey and tell her how I felt, and we had a whole discussion about it, and we came to a really good understanding. But as we should, as women, we should be able to talk. Right. But the truth with the matter is, I'd let her know that shit was foul, and it made me, again, it was the way it was done was very much like they knew they could get a Black woman to look a certain way. It was really, and I, at that moment, I wasn't the Dawn that I previously was. And I spoke up for myself, which normally I don't. Normally, I'm very much just like getting the work done.
Yeah.
I'm not that woman anymore. You know, I had grown, and I won't allow anyone to disrespect me or my art. I'll work with you, but I also believe in work ethic. If we tell people we're going to be great, we need to put the work in to be great. I'm not going to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. I'm not going to fake lip sync. I'm not going to, not work out every day. I'm not going to not learn my ad libs. I'm not going to not do the work, because there are too many dope ass artists out here, right? So we got to step up. If we're not trying to step up, then what are we doing? And I always was true to that. But I also understand that there's privilege too. Mm. And when you're used to getting over that, I understand that makes sense. Mm. I at the time couldn't understand that. And I at the time didn't want to be a part of that. So though I understood why they may have felt like it's easy and why not just do it the easy way, at the time I couldn't I only know the black way, which is we gotta go hard or they talk about our ass. You know what I'm saying? We're not giving the vocal, if we're not giving the account, if the body ain't right, they telling us about ourselves. I come from that. I don't know the privileged side. I don't know the side of let's finesse this, and I didn't know that side. So you understand where they were coming from. I just didn't understand. I didn't want to be a part of that, and I don't have the privilege to do that. So we lost it. We lost it again. I came out with my second project, and we were Gucci, and I kept it moving, and it was one of my most profound projects. So I came back, still phased, but able to move on.
So you go from that, and then we get, Redemption.
Great project too.
Amazing. Really, and then one of my favorites, New Breed. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
And so we also get you doing some work with Adult Swim. How did that come about?
I wanted to make more money. And I also wanted to be able to expand. I knew that I was spending so much money on visuals, and I was trying to figure out how to, I wasn't getting payola, I wasn't getting radio, and I was like, how do I get my brand out there? And I knew I could animate, I knew I could draw, I knew I could license. I have a degree in marketing, so I was like, I have all these things. How do I make this a business? And so, and at the time I had gotten really good after Redemption. I mean, I had made my album a USB. I was getting really creative. We were doing some really cool things. And so I applied. I talked to Adult Swim and just first started at their singles program, just working, sending my music in to be played. And I developed I genuinely developed a relationship. I reached out, cold called, and they were very good to me. They were really awesome. And then I developed that relationship and then came to them and asked if I could be a creative director. And they took me on. And ever since then, I've been working to not only animate with them, but bring other animators to the table. So I took something and made it work for me. And it has funded my career. It has broadened my journey, and it has made me truly happy to be a part of something so awesome and so rewarding. So I'm very happy, very grateful to Adult Swim for believing in me a lot of times when a lot of people rejected me.
You know what? I didn't know. I knew that it was, I thought it was kind of like on a more project by project basis, but I didn't know it was such a long-term relationship.
2015, I started with them.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I built it organically. I didn't want to use them. I wanted to genuinely show them what I could do.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of work, but they took a chance and it worked. Just like the merge, just like anything. All I ever wanted in any of this industry was the shot. And every opportunity I've ever been given, every time I will go out. And if I don't, I'll still give you my best. It was the line I got in, whether it was a Wendy Williams show, whether it was a Pitchfork festival. I get very small windows. The culture don't give me a lot. I don't get cosigns. I got to work for every window, but every time I get it, I make sure you remember it. And that was the same thing with Adult Swim. I never wanted anyone who took a chance on me to ever think that they didn't do right. Like even with the Tiny Desk, Lars, I love Lars. Oh my God, I love him so much. One kid took a shot on me. He was like an intern at the time, not an intern, but he worked within the programming. Because I don't want to downplay Lars. Lars is awesome, but he liked me. The rest of the people didn't really know, and he took a chance, and I made sure that was like worth it. And it was one of I think one of the doper Tiny Desk is one of my favorite live performances I've done. And I had no money, and I flew my whole team down to DC. We had the band, we had the girls, and we made that show work because he took a chance on me. I wanted to make sure when he got back to his office, he felt like, okay, that was a good chance I took, and that's with anything that I do. Same thing with Adult Swim.
It's like a through line of excellence that I feel like is the driving force behind what you do. Not only the creative aspect, but like I want to do this and I want to do it in excellence. Can you, like, for people out there that want to be an independent artist or just do something on their own, can you like give some words of wisdom? Because I feel like for me, this conversation has really had this idea of I can do this.
Anyone can. What's I don't have advice because everybody's journey is different. I just saw Tiana Taylor do an interview, and I'm really happy for her because I know her rejections have been crazy too. Her blessings have been awesome too because she's been able to be loved also, and she's had a lot of people who are major who stand by her to be able to create her career. But it doesn't negate the fact that she's had a lot of doors slammed as well. And I say that because I think her and I have had wild moments in the industry where people have just, not the same. Because again, like I said, she came in way younger, 16 years old. She was my sweet. She had Pharrell. She had a lot of people for her. I only really had one person. Puff was the only person to really at the time take a chance. But I say that to say we're two completely different coins, right? But we're both independent, both trying to find our way in our own trajectory. She's found hers. I found mine. We're different paths. But the truth is that we both got a lot of rejection, and we figured out how to maneuver ourselves in this industry. That's just two examples. There's plenty more. Victoria Monet, like I could go on. Rico Nasty, all these really cool artists who are trying to find their ways in their own right. I don't have advice. I think you are your own narrator of your own destiny. I think ownership is key. You own it, and no one can strip it from you. Take it for someone who gave their career. I had my career in other people's hands, and I could taste the millions. I could taste it. And I had no control over it being taken away. I made a choice that if it was going to be taken, I would have the ownership. I now own my property. I own my art. And I know that I will get to the place that I want to be. And I found success in that. It may not be at the same level I was with the machine, but that was stripped from me. So my only example of getting there, was someone that took it from me. Now no one can take it from me but myself. So I think as an independent artist, it's up to you to navigate your own trajectory. Don't look at anyone else's, not even mine, not Tiana's, not Beyonce's, don't look at anyone else's but your path, and go at it at a vengeance, just relentlessly. And you'll find what that success is to you. Don't measure your success on anyone else's, because I sure the hell don't. Everyone always say you a flop or you didn't make it. That's your own opinion. I feel like I am, for what I was given. When I look around at my peers, I'm doing just fine. I'm doing good. Like, that's success. I was in a car. I lost everything. So yeah, this success looks good.
I ain't got no more to add.
No, it's true.
Listen, I don't. I just think that I want to say thank you for taking this time. There are so many of us out there who have been rooting for you since the moment you popped up on our screen. So it's super exciting to me that we got to have this conversation today. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your art. I want to thank you for the excellence. And just even the things that I took away from this conversation. Whenever I do an interview, I feel like yeah, I feel like it's for the audience, but I get so much from it. So
That's
I
no,
just want to say thank you for that.
thank you for having me. It means a lot. And thank you for supporting. Like it really I wouldn't trade this journey. I love my groups. I love my solo career. I would do any of them in a heartbeat. I have no and like I'm in such a good place where I want us all to win. And when I mean all, I mean culturally. Like I want us all culturally to win. We're in a really crazy time. There's no time for negativity. There's no time for heavy holding heavy bitterness. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's the time for us all to win. And I think in an industry that makes you feel like it has to be one or none, it is imperative as creatives that we continue to understand that it can be all.
Mm. Sky Squad, listen, Don Richard, make sure you guys head on out there,
Get
download, purchase both of them.
DonRichard.io. DonRichard.io.
DonRichard.io. I will have the link in the description of this
Yeah.
video. So make sure you guys are following and be on the lookout for whatever else she has coming our way. Because
I got shows all in June. Get tickets. They're almost gone. DonRichard.io. And then beyond that, I got more music coming. So make sure you follow the website and hit me up. I'm everywhere.
all right, y'all. We will catch you all in the next video. Dawn, thank you so much.
Always, always.
So I'm Richie Skye, the author and publisher of The Wickedest Wives, Desiree's Desire, which is book 1 in a series. This book is about redemption. It's the story of a disgraced journalist who has lost everything. And now she has to rebuild her life brick by brick. And what better way to do that than to join a reality TV show? Why not? Now, not only are we talking reality TV, so you know there's gonna be scandal, you know there's gonna be a little bit of deception, backstabbing, a little romance, and why not throw in a sprinkle of murder to really round out the excitement? So I really want you guys to dive headfirst into these books. Desiree's Desire is just the first of many to come. So I'm super excited for you guys to read this, and I want to know exactly what you think. So be sure to follow, like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.